Hi, just a scared boy afraid of the petty politics in Singapore. And I want to talk about why I find these two responses by Petir to something Harpreet Singh said in a YLB podcast irritating. Harpreet Singh is a Workers' Party candidate, said to be one of the star catchers this election. The podcast was published 10th of April 2025, and here's the relevant section.
But people have said that, WP is just PAP light.
Yeah.
And, there's no real change that's going to come from, if more WP members are in parliament. You'll just be the sitting next to the driver's seat and, giving him a slap here and there. What do you say to people who say that?
Let me answer that this way. First, let's talk about the things that we agree with. As I said, there are many things in Singapore that I and the Workers' Party agree with that we will preserve and that will not change. Our system of meritocracy, our commitment to incorruptibility, race relations, a world-class civil service, right, etc., the ideals in our flag, those are all givens. Any responsible, sensible political party will take that as part of Singapore's rich legacy that's non-negotiable. Now, that doesn't make us PAP light. Let's think about the areas that we are different. You remember when the PAP said Mr. Tharman Shanmugaratnam will not be put up as PM because some Singaporeans are just not ready for a non-Chinese PM. That, I think, was a slap on every Singaporean's face. It went against our principle of meritocracy, went against our principle of equality of all races. You will never, ever, ever hear that from the Workers' Party. We are committed to multiculturalism, committed to, multiracialism and meritocracy. And the best man or woman for any role will be pushed forward. And that's why you see Mr. Lau Tia Kiang passing on the mantle over to Mr. Pritam Singh, a Teochew man to a Sikh gentleman, right? Look at the way the constitutional amendment was passed when it came to just before the President Halimah presidency. You would never get the Workers' Party exercising its powers in that way. We must respect the choices of Singaporeans, whatever they are, even if we disagree with them. Let's trust Singaporeans.
So let's understand the substance of Singh's answer. He first says that there are core Singaporean values common with the PAP. Then he brings up the point on multiculturalism, multiracialism, and meritocracy. The best man or woman for any role will be pushed forward, and that we must respect the choices of Singaporeans, whatever they are, even if we disagree with them. Let's trust Singaporeans. That is the core substance. Put it another way, it's basically repeating the pledge. To contrast WP with the PAP, he brings up two examples. One is the case where Tharman wasn't put as PM, and the other is the constitutional amendment for Halimah Yacob. So here's the context. January 2016, PM Lee said that the qualifying criteria for elected presidency will be reviewed, with an area being how to ensure a minority presidential candidate be elected periodically. 15th September 2016, government puts up white paper on elected presidency scheme, adding a safeguard for minority representation. As if in response to this, on 26 September 2016, there was a black box survey commissioned by Yahoo Singapore on the topic of leadership succession. The survey was done online with a sample size of 897, but it tried to be representative of Singapore with its gender, age profile, ethnicity, and geography. And the result is that Tharman is the clear frontrunner, with 55% of voters having him as their first choice and 69% supportive as a candidate. Teo Chee Hean is the second, with only 17% as first choice and 34% supportive. 2 days after this survey, the Straits Times reported that Tharman ruled himself out as the next PM. He reasons that he is better at policy making, advising younger colleagues, and supporting the PM, but not being the PM. He then cited the example of Goh Keng Swee and S. Rajaratnam as people who had immense contributions to Singapore but were not ideal as PM. In an article released February 2017, interestingly now removed from the Straits Times website, it wrote, "Near the end of the debate, Mr. Chan accidentally called Madam Halima Madam President instead of Madam Speaker, to loud laughter from the House. He did it twice before he corrected himself." In March 2017, Reyes and Taman as a successor were once again brought up in a BBC interview.
In 2008, you gave an interview where you indicated that you didn't think Singapore was ready for a Muslim, non-Chinese Prime Minister. Do you still feel that today?
I think that ethnic considerations are never absent when voters vote. It's like that in America, certainly in this last election. And in Singapore, it's much better than before, but race and religion count. And I think that makes it difficult. It's not impossible, and I hope one day it will happen.
Is it ready today? Is Singapore ready today?
If you ask whether it will happen tomorrow, I don't think so.
I mean, put it this way, one of your deputies, so one can assume a man that you believe to be qualified to be PM, if it should arise, is Tharman Shanmugaratnam.
Yes.
Now, he and I have discussed this,
Yes.
as it happens.
Yes.
He told me that he didn't believe he would ever be PM of Singapore, and polls suggest that most Singaporeans see him as the man best qualified to be the next PM. Perhaps it's time to reassess.
It may be I'm wrong, but my sense is that Singaporean voters will look for a good man, a man who can resonate with them, a man they can identify with.
Could it be, could it be Mr. Tharman?
I mean, it could be somebody like Tharman, but...
Well, he's your deputy. I mean,
yes, indeed, it could be somebody like him. But these are factors which voters take into consideration when they go into the ballot box and when they identify with you. And I think there are very few countries where you can say the race doesn't count at all.
May 2017, Tan Cheng Bock, who was one of the 4 Tan candidates in the 2011 presidential election, made a constitutional challenge that was later dismissed. August 2017, Workers' Party filed an adjournment motion on the upcoming reserved presidential election, which was not selected for mention on the 5th of September 2017 ballot. Interestingly, this article is removed from CNA. As the only eligible candidate, Halimah Yacob was sworn in as president on 14th September 2017. In March 2019, at the NTU Students' Union Ministerial Forum, Assistant Professor Walid asked Heng Swee Kit if it is Singapore or the PAP who is not ready for a non-Chinese PM. And the then Finance Minister said, "My own experience in walking the ground, in working with different people from all walks of life, is that the views, if you go by age and by life experience, would be very different. I do think that at the right time, when enough people think that we may have a minority leader, a minority who becomes the leader of the country, that is something that we can all hope for." So that was the timeline of events that Harpreet Singh is referring to, which can hardly be summarized and regurgitated in a podcast scenario. Again, the substance is about the choices or the lack thereof for Singaporeans. Well, Petir, which according to the website is published by and at the direction of the People's Action Party, has 2 articles responding to Singh's comments. The first, position on non-Chinese PM. The article rebutes Singh's claims that the PAP had gone against principles of meritocracy and equality of all races by not putting up Mr. Tharman Shanmugaratnam as Prime Minister. Petir cited the instances where Tharman said he did not want to be PM, before saying that we must respect the presidency. The other article, Mr. Harpreet Singh misrepresents our views, says that Singh has suggested that the PAP doesn't think a minority can or even should become Prime Minister. He presented a distorted, one-sided picture of what PAP leaders have said recently on this score. In regards to the 2019 forum, Petir says Heng was sharing his observations, acknowledging the different mindsets of our diverse population, not endorsing their views. Petir then gives more examples of other PAP leaders saying that they would welcome a PM of any race. Technically speaking, if we only look at a single sentence, it is not incorrect to say that Singh has said something factually wrong about the reasons PAP didn't put up Tharman as PM. But that's not the point he was making. There is a whole context of respecting the choices of Singaporeans. Halima's walkover presidency not being mentioned seems to be a classic debate tactic of cherry picking. Here's something Minister Tan See Leng said in a more recent podcast.
Can you imagine our entire interview? Yalabat is 1 hour and a half. And all we talk about is just, the part that comes out is Minister says that you're very myopic.
Yeah.
Then it really completely undermines and unravels your entire effort, your whole ethos, the thinking that you've put into preparing for this podcast.
Yeah.
I sincerely hope that Petir's publication is not representative of the PAP's views on Harpreet Singh's comments, as the articles implicitly assumes that the Singaporean population has poor comprehension. It is additionally in poor taste to dismiss the choices and views of Singaporeans using an elected position. We do not need this kind of petty politics in Singapore.